Hey guys, welcome back to nationalhighschoolfootball.com. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is getting together with the best football minds in America. Joe, you would agree with that statement, right?
Of course, that's why I'm here.
I knew where that was going. Here's a softball.
That's right. So tonight's guest is no stranger to the show. We had him on last year about this time, and you guys recognize him. He's no stranger to the scene of high school football, one of the best, most recognizable names across the nation. Let's welcome to the show Jeff Fisher. He's the head of High School Football America. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm just recognizable by name because of the other Jeff Fisher with the bad mustache.
Now that you mention it, last year when Joe called me up, he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about having Jeff Fisher on the show." And my immediate thought was, an NFL coach on the show. That'd be great.
You know what? I've got a funny story to tell. It'll be real quick. When Raul Lara was hired at Mater Dei, I think you were on that call, Joe. We were Zoom, right? We weren't out there.
Yep.
But anyway, so afterwards, I had talked to the old coach, Bruce Rollinson. I said, I don't have Coach Lara's number. Can you give it to me? Can you give him my number? Have him call me, whatever it may be. And the very first thing that he asked, because I asked a question during the news conference, the press conference, was, "Are you that Jeff Fisher?" No, coach. So even the best of the best think I'm that guy.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. So, Jeff, we're here tonight to talk about, this preseason going into a brand new year. We're really on the eve of kickoff when it comes to high school football. And this time of year, we got fans all over the place. As Joe would tell you on our website, nationalhsfb.com, we get a discussion about this stuff year round. But this time of year, it really picks up. And it makes a lot of sense because guys like you come out with your national top rankings, that kind of stuff. So I thought we would spend some time over the next 30 minutes or so talking about your ranking, why you put this team here, that team there, what can we expect this upcoming season. So you game for all that?
I'm here to do that. Fire away.
Fantastic.
And
Jeff,
Joe
will pick on me along the way too.
Jeff, as you do that, as a promoter, as we go over your poll, you and I will go over the best teams that they're going to play each one of these teams.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
All right. So, Joe, you want me to go ahead and put Jeff's poll up? All right. Here we go. All right. There we go.
Pretty simple right at the top, right? You want to dive into it?
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive. Listen, your first one there doesn't surprise anybody, really. I mean, It's been Mater Dei's country, and everybody's playing for second place. It seems like, is that the case this year?
Well, yeah, I don't know about that. And Joe, you alluded to it with the great schedule that everybody's playing at the top. So, it's not cut and dry, but I mean, Mater Dei's won 5 of our last, since 17, they've won 5 national championships. Probably would have won a national championship in 2020 because California, because of COVID, played in the spring. They ran the table in the Trinity League. That was pretty darn good team. So, they may have won 6 if they actually played a full season. But I mean, it's Mater Dei's to lose, I believe. And Joe and I talk about this, when he's on our podcast or when we're just talking offline. I mean, the 2 teams at the top aren't afraid of anyone. They will play anybody, anytime, anywhere. And, Mater Dei and St. John Bosco out of the same league. We've got all 6 Trinity League teams somewhere between 1 and 52. So if you run the table in the Trinity League and then you play an out-of-state schedule like Mater Dei's playing, for example, they're going to play Gorman, right, out of Nevada in September. So it is theirs to lose. But again, you get a little bit of tweak here, a little tweak there. For example, if Gorman beats Mater Dei early out of the box, they could flip up to the top because I think Gorman has taken their schedule to another level. I don't know how you feel about that, Joe, but I feel those top 3 teams are really locked in with a great out-of-state schedule.
Yeah, and the great thing is they're all going to be intertwined by the end of the year. And what I love about Mater Dei's schedule this year is all their toughest games are on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even if they win all those top 4 or 5 games on the road, and it's going to be extra special because they would have beaten Bosco on the road at least once, Gorman on the road. Let's not forget St. Thomas Aquinas on the road.
Yeah.
So that's great. I mean, they could go down as one of the all-time great teams if they go undefeated this year with those road victories.
Yeah. And,
Joe, Joe,
ahead.
just to fill our fans in and complete, they've got, you're right, from top to bottom, beginning to end. They start the season on the road at St. Thomas Aquinas. Then on September 12th, they're at Centennial. Then follow that up with Bishop Gorman, Orange Lutheran on the road back to back, and then finish out the season on the road with Bosco.
Yeah, I think you could argue, and I'd love your take on this too, Joe, that Mater Dei's current run, if they do it again this year, I know everybody wants to talk about the great De La Salle program, right? 151 straight wins, all that. I mean, all that speaks for itself. Toward the end of that streak, they did take on some biggies outside of, Northern California is okay, but it's not kind of the Southern California area. But I would venture to say that Mater Dei's current run is as good as there's ever been in the history of high school football.
I mean, I know it was a different time back then with De La Salle, but Mater Dei is doing it in a time where they're beating the likes of Bishop Gorman, they're beating IMG, they've beaten
Right.
St. Francis. De La Salle didn't beat these top 5-10 teams annually like Mater Dei is.
Right. Yeah. And I know you were one of the first guys setting up probably De La Salle's original big cross country matchup, right? You said, did you have a hand in that one or not when they played
Bosco back in the day? That
Yeah.
was I mean, I was involved a little bit, but that was literally a year or two. I'm sorry, a couple of years before we actually went into business. But yes,
Got it. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there's no doubt about it. Mater Dei schedule is as formidable as it comes. And I mean, the other thing that's really interesting, and I found this interesting last year, and I'm curious what it's going to be like this year. Game one, I mean, Mater Dei smacked St. John Bosco right during the regular season. That playoff game for the Division I CIF championship was a lot closer. So, I'm just curious to see how. Because that was a young team that Jason Negro had last year. I'm interested to see how Bosco develops this year. I just like you, I'm a big fan of Jason Negro. I mean, one of the best coaches in America. I truly believe that. I mean, he's a great guy, but one A is a great guy, 1B is a great coach.
Yep. Yeah. So then we got Gorman.
Yeah, so you got Gorman. I love Gorman's schedule. I really do. In state they're weak. As a matter of fact, before we turned on here, I was kind of going through the top 10 in the state. You've got 14 out of 15 of the last, big classification titles. Liberty knocked off Gorman in 2019. That snapped, would have been 15 straight. But the game that I like, and you and I have talked about this, is I'm looking forward to see what East St. Louis does with them. I don't know why. I've got that game circled on my schedule. There's something about that game that really has me excited. And of course, you work with East St. Louis, and talk about a team that's not afraid to play anybody, anywhere, anytime. I mean, I would think Coach Sunker would actually play 10 out-of-state games, forget about Illinois, and then just go into the Illinois tournament.
Well, remember,
you get away with it.
We think alike. He's a Jersey guy, so we all think alike. We were all brought up wanting to play the best, and not playing any running clock games. Play the best, and whether you go 5-5, going 5-5 against great competition is better than going 10-0 against not so great competition. That's the way we think here in the Garden State.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm trying to remember, I don't have your schedule right in front of me, but do you have the East St. Louis Bergen Catholic game? Do you have that one?
That's on Flow. That's part of the Battle of the Beach.
Yeah,
and then right before that game, IMG plays Winslow.
Yeah, and you and I talked about that's going to be interesting. We're heading down to IMG next week, so I'm going to have my first look at the facilities down there. And Coach,
it's so beautiful. And make sure you tell them I want to see your national championship trophy from nationalhighschoolfootball.com. It's in their case.
I have no doubt it is. It's a beautiful trophy you have, Joe. No doubt about that. So, but yeah, no, I think that, those top three, and again, with Gorman, Mater Dei, going head to head, but, in state, the good news is I think they got one extra out of state game this year. Normally they were doing 5. I think they have 6 out of state games this year. Arborview, they beat them in the state championship last year. I think 69-7 or something like that. It was a massive blowout. But now the Gales are the Gales, and they're never going to go away. I to be honest with you, and I used to talk about this a lot with people when I was living out in Southern California when we moved and stayed out there for 6 years to kind of build the company. I would love for Gorman to just become part of the Trinity League.
Yeah.
Just because they're all having trouble scheduling games there. You get a guarantee of 6, and and they can still figure out something, in state where they can still qualify to play for the Nevada
Yeah.
State Championship. But again, if you're rolling to those state titles, do they really mean anything? I
Right.
know
They don't.
that yeah, it's sort
Yeah.
of like
So, Jeff, what I'd like for them to do, it's much simpler. Just schedule IMG in St. Francis every year.
there you go.
There you go.
I love the Gales. Been out there, got a nice tour of the school. But what annoys me is all these other teams will play, for the most part, have played or will play IMG in St. Francis, and they refuse to. So hopefully we could turn that around in the coming years.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's what it's going to come down to is, if people are, and this is why you exist, at Prep Gridiron Logistics. I mean, it's like if people aren't going to play you, what are you going to do? You're going to play a 6-game schedule, a 7.
Yeah.
They got to do something, and I agree that play the best. I think I heard that from somebody once or twice. So,
All
but
right,
yeah,
now
no,
Let me ask you something. I've got two prominent national pollsters on the screen with me, so I'm going to take advantage of this question. So if you have, just by chance, if you have Mater Dei losing to Bosco and possibly another top tier team, and then you got Bosco stumbling along the way, is it, how likely is it if you have would you have a team from a Florida or a Georgia catapulting those two teams to take a national title at the end of the year?
I'll go first, Jeff, if you don't mind.
yeah, go ahead.
It's really easy for me. Our criteria in crowning our national champion is the team must be undefeated.
Okay.
So we have never, since we started doing this, crowned a 1 or more loss team as a champion. We had Miami Central back in the day. We had IMG back in the day. We had Mater Dei last year. With 16,000 teams playing this game, I honestly don't believe a national champion should have a loss in high school football. And I put a poll up every year, and every year it favors what I'm thinking. 50 to 60% of the people who respond say, yes, I believe the national champ should be undefeated. Now, there's never been a year where there are so many great teams at number one with one loss that kind of forced my hand into choosing a number one, choosing the number one team with a loss. And it could happen. I would never put somebody there who doesn't deserve it, in my opinion. But yeah, this is easy for me. If you have a loss, you can't be number one.
Yeah. And you and I disagree on that, but we also use an algorithm too, which I should have pointed out at the beginning. We've been using that. We did an opinion poll in 2012. I decided that my opinion wasn't worth anything. As a matter of fact, I hated doing it, and I think I've discussed this with you guys before. We didn't even do preseason rankings in 2012 until the 3rd week of the season, right? Because I was just like, I don't want to be hassled with it. The algorithm itself, when we put it in 13, I kind of feel the same way because it's designed to analyze what goes on the field. But we know the fans love it. We put it out there, and at the end of the day, I didn't do it this last season, but I think in the first 11 years of our algorithm, 67% of the teams that began, and whether we were doing a top 25, a top 50, a top 100, or now our top 300, the teams, 67%, 68% of the teams that began the season in the preseason rankings have finished there. So, that speaks a lot toward what we've been able to evolve. And this, Joe, I've told you this, and I think, Larry, we talked about this one time too on the air, is, we evolved it. We try to look at it every year, see how it does. If it needs to have a little tweak here or there. Now, I'm not talking about, skewing it for another state or something, but we'll look at that and change it around. I mean, the big complaint we get is who's at the top, and
Yeah.
I'm Southern Cal biased because I used to live there. No, No, they're good. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned the game right at the top, right? I mean, against St. Thomas Aquinas. Can Aquinas slip in there? Well, that has been the question. They've won 6 straight Florida State championships. The question all along has been, well, why aren't they? Well, they don't play anybody. They
Mhm.
didn't go out of state. I do believe that, and that does make a difference in our criteria. You should play an out-of-state opponent, even if it's one. Just play one. And and
That's
and
what we
that
say.
takes me to Grayson at 4. You know, Grayson could slip in just like that, right? A run to a 6A title in Georgia is great, but here's the thing, Joe Larry. Grayson's going to play great out-of-state opponents. They've got, Thompson.
Yep.
They've won what, 6 of 7 or 5 of 6 7A titles there and all that. They've got Mallard Creek, one of the top teams in North Carolina. They have some good in-state teams. They've got, Rabun Gap Nakuchi, a boarding school in little tiny Rabun Gap, Georgia, that's won a North Carolina private school championship. And I like that. And I did an interview the other day here on Sports Talk Radio in Atlanta, and they were razzing me. And I just said, you know what? I love Buford. I love their $62 million stadium. I don't love that this year they don't have any out-of-state opponents.
Yeah.
And for Georgia not to have teams playing at least one out-of-state opponent to me is almost a travesty, because we've got so many good football states around us, right? You don't have to go that far. Go to a Tennessee, play in Oakland and Murfreesboro. Go down to Florida. Go to Alabama, and it's not that hard to find them. Come on, Joe,
Right.
get these games hooked up.
Hey, we have the Grayson Thompson game is going to be on Flow. We're going to be broadcasting it to a national audience, so we're excited about that. And
That's
again,
why I gave you the softball there. I'm helping you, Joe.
if they beat Thompson and win Georgia, go undefeated, hell yeah, they got to be they got to be in national championship talks, especially if those other teams above them have a loss.
Jeff, to your point, Grayson's got those 3 opponents back to back to back: Rabun Gap, Thompson, and Mallard Creek in 3 successive weeks.
Yeah, I think 4 of the first 5 are
all home. They're all home too.
which is big. They've got, I think, the first 4 of the first 5 are teams against teams in the top 300. And I like Travis Burgess. I think he's a great quarterback. He's our number 1 quarterback in Georgia in our rankings, and I think all the national recruiting sites have him up there. Good kid, good dual threat, big kid, and I like that program there a lot. They've been winning consistently in Georgia for a long time, and I think sometimes that gets lost in the kind of in the messaging with it. But I also like to brag, and you'll like this, Joe. Going back to the jersey thing and all that, is I remember my first year back in Georgia in 18, Bergen with Vito Campanile stomped the Rams.
Grayson.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was
a blowout.
It
was like 30-7 at the end of 3, something like that. It was crazy.
Yeah, they manhandled them, which was great. But yeah, I mean, Georgia football is good. I'm not discounting any of it. I just really believe in a day and age where people are going out of state to get 1 or 2 games on the schedule. You should do that to have a shot. Play some of the biggies, and then
Jeff,
you can talk national title. Yeah,
you and I talk about this all the time. This is the reason I cannot. Very rarely will I have any team in my top 10 or 15 without an out-of-state opponent, like Duncanville. I don't have any Texas team in my top 10 this year. I can't do it. Like last year was a little easier because Duncanville beat St. Francis and then North Crowley beat Duncanville. So they were intertwined in some ways. But yeah, I can't at the preseason point. You gotta have, if you want to be nationally ranked, you have to have a national schedule.
Well, that's why you're so beloved in Texas, Joe.
Yes.
But you look at our rankings. Duncanville's the highest rated Texas team.
I love it.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying.
I love seeing what I'm looking at right now. I love that top 9. I love those states in that top 9.
Yeah, I mean, and they all do one thing. What do?
Yep.
They play the best, and they're not afraid to go outside of the state to play the best.
Hey, Jeff, when we get close to the end of talking about your poll, I'm going to revisit this second part, but I'll give you a quick shout out because you do give Georgia a lot of love, as well as Florida and California. Just wanted to show our viewers. I want to scroll up on this poll and you kind of break it down, your top 300 right there.
Yeah, so
Uh,
it's Florida's at the top, and 52 teams out of 300. That's pretty darn good.
Mhm.
Texas is there in the mix, but again, if you look at it by population and all that, Georgia's toe to toe with Florida
right.
because
Mhm.
per capita, they're putting more teams in that poll that can be, and I think I haven't released it yet, but I've been looking at the best states. I'm trying to do, 1 through 50, maybe add DC in there. But Georgia's a solid 3 at this point. California, despite the fact that it's got a 1 and 2 in the poll and 52 teams in the top 52 from the Trinity League, I should say. They're kind of like 4. And Ohio's the one that always surprises me how solid Ohio football is. And Joe, I know you don't have a problem. You're a Buckeye at heart too.
I'm a Dayton Flyer at heart.
I know you are.
All right. So with that said, we'll get back to our poll.
But yeah, I mean, and then we've gone through that. Like I said, I agree with Joe. If Grayson gets that big win over Thompson, beats those first 3 teams, and they run the table, yeah, why not? Especially
Mhm.
if one of those trips up there, IMG. I mean, what can you say about that program? I mean, they have not been out of our national rankings for forever. I think the lowest they've been since 14 is I think they were 13 one year. That's about it. But I like as I've learned more and more about the program, and we can all sit here and digress into, well, they've got how many states are on their roster, recruiting, all this sort of stuff. They still play the best of the best. They're not afraid to do that, and in most cases, Joe, as you know, they go on the road a lot. So I like them, and there's no doubt about it. They were our national champs in 2021. We kind of did a 20 poll because of COVID, and then we kind of mixed it with the teams that played in the spring. But that's a quality program, and it's not as easy as people would think. And I talked to Coach Studs about this on my podcast a couple of weeks ago. Is homesickness is a big deal, right? Yeah, it's a football factory, no doubt about that. But these kids are moving away, sometimes thousands of miles from mom and dad, and that makes it tough. And you got that as an obstacle and all that, and it's rigorous academically too. So it's there's a lot of people that want me to throw them into our prep poll. That's just as long as they're playing the top high school football programs in the country, they remain in the high school football rankings, not the prep rankings.
Yeah, I'm with you. Everyone wants like publics and privates to be separated in polls. That's bullshit. I mean,
Yeah.
Miami Central beat IMG, Buford beat St. Francis, Kahuku beat St. John Bosco. What's the team from Arizona? Hamilton beat Gorman. Right, Hamilton, Arizona. Didn't they remember that wild comeback, like 2 touchdowns in like 30
Yep.
seconds?
Yep, that was Hamilton. Yep.
Yeah, you're discrediting power privates by making 2 polls. So
Yeah.
that's BS.
Joe,
I
the
mean,
the only pushback I would give to you on that is I completely get what you're saying, and I'm 90% there with you. But on some level, you got to concede there is a discrepancy on different rules that state associations put on the ability for student athletes to move around. Like the state of Florida, you can pretty much move wherever you want and end up playing that same season. Other states, not so much. So that's the only pushback I would give you.
No, but listen, all these private schools, the parochials especially, have the same rules as everyone else. There's nothing keeping Blessed Trinity and what's the other one? And Marist in Georgia, Atlanta area, from being a Mater Dei or St. John Bosco. There's absolutely nothing keeping them from being as good as those teams. They're just not. So that if any and a lot of these top public schools are in areas where many kids from all over can go there. I mean, I forget what they term it, but open enrollment districts.
Open enrollment.
Like yeah. So I mean, a lot. I get it, but I get it. If you're a small high school in a small town, yeah, I get it. But in these metro areas, a lot of these high schools are open enrollment, and they can draw from wherever they want.
Yeah, Arizona has that, and here's the other thing, which goes to what we always talk about, which is the good ones want to play the good ones, right? Coach Dunkett at East St. Louis, is winning an Illinois state championship a big deal? It's always a big deal when you win a state championship, but it's Illinois, right? But he goes out and does that, and then in Louisiana, for example, that's where I was going with this. I just got off topic with Coach Suckett. I love him so much. But Louisiana has been arguing for years after they separated public and private in championships. They've been arguing for years about bringing it back together because the best of the best want to play everyone.
Yeah.
So there's an actual study going on by the government's actually gotten involved, and we know how that can go. But anyway, that aside, to see if they can bring it back together where there's going to be a true state champion again, because they're missing, So if a good public school like a Zachary's or a Neville or something like that, they want to play a John Curtis or a Catholic out of Baton Rouge. They want that. The best coaches want to do that.
Well, Edna Carr is ranked high in a lot of polls this start of the season. Yeah.
Great program.
Listen, it can be done. I'm not arguing about that because I think, Jeff, in your in High School Football America back in 2015, I think you crowned Colquitt County as a national championship.
Yeah, I'm still getting crap for that one. But you know what? Yeah, I mean, and again, that's how but Colquitt has always been a program that's always, even when Rush was there, they were playing out of state people,
That's right.
They're in South Georgia, so they can kind of cross the border a little bit in there. But yeah, I mean, it's and I get a lot of flack on Gorman. Gorman won in 2016, but they haven't won it since that time. And I know, we got some flack a couple of years ago because they did run the table, right? But I guess that was, what was that, 2023? I'm trying to remember now, when Mater Dei ended up being, our national champ. But, we don't have that criteria like Joe does. And I don't disagree with Joe. I just know in the algorithm world, it has to, it comes out the way it comes out. And of course, that's also my excuse that I can hide behind.
That's right.
And us, we dare to be different at at Prep Gridiron and National High School Football.
Yeah, no, and that's the great thing about it. I mean, I think we talked about this when I was on last year with Zach or whenever it was. But I mean, there's, I have no, animosity or whatever with anybody. I don't look at anybody. I look at yours, Joe. I do retweet yours and all that. But I don't look at anybody else because I don't want it to skew me in any way, shape, or form. And I don't think anybody's any smarter than I am or I'm any dumber than they are. You know what I mean? Like, I just want it to be about promoting the good sport that we have. And I think the more the merrier. And we were joking before we started recording here, some people put us in the comp polls and some don't. I ain't losing no sleep, to use some bad English there. Ain't losing any sleep, folks.
So I got a question for you here. So who at Bergen Catholic paid you off to have him at number 6?
Oh boy. The algorithms knows what it knows, right?
As a Jersey guy, I'm kidding.
I know you are. I know you. No,
but out of the 9 pollsters, that's the best position they were given in any preseason poll.
Well, I think we're going to find out in a hurry, right? On Flow, how good this team is. I love the Campanile family, right? They may be the first family of coaching in America.
Well, Jeff, we all went to high school together.
Oh, I didn't know you did.
Paramus Catholic, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. I knew you went to Paramus Catholic, but I didn't know that. But no, I mean, there's 2 Campaniles in. Paul Catholic is in. He's the head coach there, and Vito. But no, I just like them. A lot of people say, well, North Jersey's not like it used to be. I don't agree with that. That's a tough place to win football. It's physical.
There's more parity. That's the thing. There's more parity. Back in the Bosco days, they were beating St. Thomas Aquinas twice, De La Salle twice. I mean, it's not with all the parity now. The teams, the best players are spread out more, and unfortunately now, you saw the scores, losing by 48 to Mater Dei, losing by 35 to Bosco, losing by 40 to Madonna. It's made the Jersey games better and closer, but nationally it's harder to compete when the kids are spread out versus all the best players playing for one team.
Yeah. And and BC's done good again when they've stepped out of state, right? They played IMG tough. A couple of years ago. I don't have.
Remember Grayson? They shocked the world. They blew after 3 quarters. It was a blowout. Grayson at the time had that great player Owen Papo. Remember?
Yeah,
he was a great
defensive end.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was actually Vito's first game there as head coach.
Yeah, and Bergen beat Gorman back in the day in Oradell.
so
They all the Jersey teams have huge wins. Bergen, Bosco, Joe's.
And the other point is again it's not tweaking, but we have to tweak the algorithm for the preseason because it's designed to do on-field stuff. There is a tradition component when it comes to the preseason rankings, right? And you can't argue with a team that's won back to back to back.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? So, and they're not, and again, they're playing out of state opponents. So I can see where people would say that, but don't. Same thing with St. Joe's at 7. I mean, Tim Roken following up on Gabe Infante. He they've just got that thing rolling there, and they just keep getting better and better players, and not afraid to play out of state because you have them a couple of times, or at least once I know on your broadcast schedule.
Well, yeah, we have. They start the season on ESPN. They're visiting American Heritage, and then we have them at University of Pennsylvania, Franklin Field, hosting St. Francis.
I love that one at Franklin Field. That's truly one of the it's fallen down, but it's truly a quintessential place.
Yep.
Hey, Joe, you're probably aware of this, but maybe the justification for Bergen being up there is, their first 3 opponents last year combined only lost 1 game.
I know. And this year too, again, they're going to play East St. Louis, who Jeff has at number 8. And people are, West Boca is a very good team out of South Florida. Very good team.
Definitely not a pushover.
Surprising. Not many people have heard of them because they haven't been ranked high lately. But, going down to South Florida and playing at West Boca will not be an easy game.
No, it won't. It won't. I think it'll be interesting. It'll definitely be interesting. We talked
a lot.
And
then Bergen, Bosco, and Joe's within their conference all play each other tough. So there's no guaranteed wins either in conference.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We've talked about East St. Louis. I don't think we need to add any more to that. Big fan of the Flyers. St. Francis Academy. All I would say is, boy, it would be great if somebody on a regular basis, just like you said before, played them so they didn't have to scratch and claw to put together a 10-game schedule.
The good point is this year for St. Francis that for the first time ever, half their games are in Baltimore, and that has never happened before. Normally, they're on the road 90% of the time.
Yeah, they're big frequent Flyer fans. There's no doubt about that. St. Thomas Aquinas, again, kudos to them to playing Mater Dei. Definitely, with 6 straight state titles, very deserving of that ranking. Duncanville, first Texas team in there. They don't have any out-of-state opponents this year, correct, Joe? I'm trying
and they only have and they only have 8 regular season games.
Right. Which, again, nobody wants to play them. We talked about Buford early. I would love to see them, taking on, especially with this new Taj Mahal that they have there. I mean, it is a beauty. There's no doubt about that. North Crowley, let's see if they can do what they did last year, right? Yeah. I still think that that's a good program, but I could see them, falling. Thompson's the one I like, Trent Seahorn. He's going into his 8th year as quarterback there.
Hey, Jeff, remember we were on the field when he was an 8th grader.
And we were looking at each other going, we thought it was somebody was lying to us saying he's in 8th grade. And I mean, he didn't look that good because he played a very good Buford team that day. But anyway, that's there. Corona Centennial, Matt Logan and company, arguably year in and year out over the last 2 decades, the best public school team in America. And, we'll give it a go again against the Mater Dei. Corona Centennial to me is one of those teams you don't want to match up against. Matt's his offensive scheme is incredible. If you've never seen Corona Centennial play, I like to mess with people sometimes and show them their offensive line splits and show that. And they're like, oh, that's punt formation. I'm like, nope, that's their run formation. And they can do a lot of stuff out of that. Corner Canyon, boy, I still think they're on a high from beating IMG last year. They've got a couple of good ones. They've got Liberty, our 25 team out of Arizona, the back-to-back Open Division champs. They're in probably the best region in Utah with 3 teams nationally ranked: Lehigh, Sky Ridge, and I'm forgetting the other one right now. It's not coming to my mind. But anyway,
Lone Peak.
Yes,
Lone-
you got it.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
Lone Peak. So they've got that. Um,
and Jeff,
you
they
know,
play. Again, people don't realize this. In the Broward event, they have to go down to South Florida and play a really, really good uh, um, West Broward team.
yep. I know you like them.
Yeah, I'm the only pollster with them in the top 25. I had
You
them.
know,
I
I,
had them.
I can now
I had them
ask
at
you the
25.
Bergen. Can I ask you the Bergen County question? Who the heck paid? No, just teasing. Who paid you to put them that high? But anyway,
Yeah, 20. Yeah, they're gonna have a chance. If they beat Corner Canyon, I'll have the last laugh. If they don't, they'll drop out after the first week. So
there you go. There you
but
go.
again, here's one. What did Peacock give you for this ranking?
Coach Peacock and I have a long storied history of him giving me weird faces on X about where his team is ranked. But there's no doubt about it. Venice is a very good program. And of course, a lot of people still, a little crazy that they ended up number 4 in our rankings last year, but that's where they ended up. And they're a good program. And I think they're probably a lock to win the biggest classification in Florida again this year. Milton, look forward to seeing what they're doing against, First Baptist or the First Academy in Orlando, and that should be interesting. And I know you've got that one on flow,
Yeah,
right?
and Jeff, just so you know, just to go back a little bit, Venice also plays the First Academy.
Yeah,
Yep.
which First Academy has a great schedule that we've been talking about for a long time,
and Venice is playing IMG, which I
IMG.
love. I love they're playing the national team.
Yeah, and that's what and that was the big thing that I said to John when he was cracking on me. I'm like, dude, upgrade the schedule and see what happens. And they just lost. It was a pretty close game last year against IMG.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's interesting. Milton, I love Ben Reeves. Backyard team for us. Milton has just since Adam Clack started building Milton into the power that it was. I know you were working with Milton early on to get those out-of-state schedule games, and just a quality program, back-to-back, 25 in a row. Do have to replace a quarterback, but they got a transfer in from Florida, St. Thomas Aquinas, I believe, to be specific. So that's interesting. Chaminade Madonna out of Florida, just a powerful program, and they know how to do it down there. That's a reload situation in the 1A classification in Florida.
So Jeff, you know what game's going to be great. They have one of the top running backs in America, and St. Francis has one of the top defenses in America. So that Broward game is going to be awesome.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. There's and we'll finish at 20 here because I got to get ready for my dinner here soon, so I got to make sure I get my Uber in time. Little plug for Uber, no, just teasing. But Orange Lutheran, the third Trinity League team, they had a great year last year. They beat St. Francis last year.
Yeah,
I love Rod. Yeah, I love Rod Sherman, the coach there. He was very successful in Colorado, and now he's doing it there at Olu. And I don't think they're there with the Mater Deis and the Boscos yet, but I think they're getting there, and they're closing in on that. And I look for one time when they're able to keep toe-to-toe with them, because if that's the case, you may never ever see a team other than the big 3 out of the Trinity League be near the top of the rankings.
And Jeff, a lot of pollsters like ourselves have Santa Margarita in their top 25 too. So those 4 teams, I mean, that's going to be some fun games.
And Carson Palmer, former NFL great, as their coach. It's going to be real interesting. About the only thing I can say about Santa Margarita is the boy's a busy boy. I can't get to Coach Palmer. I throw down NFL, play football, and everything. He's more worried about winning. So I think he's more than just a figurehead there at his alma mater. I think it's going to be great. The one thing that you guys asked me, last couple of times, I'm going to throw one team in that kind of could be a surprise. And that is, and it's in the backyard too. It's Douglas County out of Georgia here. They start at number 36, but they've got a ton of talent there, and they made it to the state semis in 6A last year, which is now the largest classification here. I could see that team doing some damage. They open up against number 53 North Gwinnett. And that's kind of my surprise team, I think, if I had to have that thrown at me.
Yeah, I got the people that got on me for my preseason poll were I had West Broward in there, and I had Douglas County. Remember, Larry, you asked me, Joe, why do you have Douglas County? I
I
said,
thought he had lost his mind, Jeff.
No, that program's loaded. They're going to be good. Then they got a transfer quarterback in. They're the real deal there. So no doubt about that.
Jeff, to your point, we're going to find out about Douglas County. They have a date with Buford on September 12th.
Right. Yep. But and they're in the Corky Kell against North Gwinnett. So that's going to be the first test. North Gwinnett's one of those solid year in and year out programs that just win, baby, just win, and they're always
And guys, you guys are Georgia guys. Where is Douglas County? Is it Atlanta area or South Georgia?
Yeah, it's about 35 to 50 miles west of the city.
Atlanta.
It used to be the Sticks. It used to be the Sticks, but it's becoming more as the population centers are moving out. They've gone to be the biggest classification now.
Jeff, last question I have for you, as we're on the topic of Georgia. When you think of Georgia high school football, two names automatically pop out to me: Buford and Grayson. Those are recognizable names. But Milton has really come on in the last couple of years. They lost Luke Nickel. He was the quarterback that graduated, went to the University of Miami. Now they got a transfer in from St. Thomas Aquinas, Derek Baker. So if Milton has an outstanding year again this year and they repeat as state champs, finish high in your top poll, are they on the cusp of joining that rarefied air with Buford and Grayson?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, they've won back-to-back titles. They open against Buford, right? So they beat Buford. You're going to see, very quickly how high they're going to climb at this point. I mean, Buford starts 12 and then Milton at 18 for us. I think, and Joe, you and I talked about this on my podcast. Once again, first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, depending, because Utah starts a little bit early. But by Labor Day, we're going to know how this thing is shaken out as far as the national championship chase.
And Jeff, with Milton, I mean, they, in my opinion, they have the best out-of-state victory in the history of Georgia high school football. They went to St. Joe's Prep in Philly and beat them on the road when St. Joe's Prep was like a top 15 team in America. I don't think Georgia has ever beat a high ranked out-of-state team than that day.
Nope. You're 100% right about that. That's definite. So good news is football starts this Friday, or I'm sorry, Saturday. The official kickoff is Saturday in Hawaii. So time to play football, guys. Now and then we can stop talking about preseason polls. Let the stuff on the field do it.
Jeff, listen, we'll let you get to dinner. So with that said, guys, if you would like to see Jeff's entire poll, his top 300, you can go to highschoolfootballamerica.com, check out the entire list, and tell us what you think on our website, nationalhsfb.com. So if you guys enjoy this, we'll see you the next time. Always promoting, Jeff.
Guys.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate you.
Have a great night.